Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining EVED's educational series. My clients are asking me to be on EVED, but what is the value to me as an international DMC? We want to thank ADME for allowing us to be able to sponsor this series and partnering with us to be able to get the education out to all the DMCs. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Talia Mashiach, and I'm the CEO and founder of EVED. EVED is an event commerce company that automates the buying and selling for meetings and events. Before founding EVED, I had over 7 years of experience as both a DMC owner and lead sales executive. While I was my DMC owner, I created technology to automate my company. We went from a $250,000 company to over a $9 million company in just 4 years by taking market share from our competitors who were established for over 20 years and bringing innovative ideas to the market. We want to welcome you specifically to this webinar. My clients are asking me to be on EVED, What's the Value to Me, which is the third in our series. And when we attended IMEX America in October, where we met a number of international DMCs, we walked away with a very strong and clear message. The international community of DMCs has an overall negative perception of EVED. And since the show, we've spent a lot of time with leaders from the international DMC market and trying to discover what is it, what is the gap. And we discovered that the primary reason behind the perception was a clear disconnect about who we are as a company, what we're trying to do, and how we provide value to both meeting and incentive companies and DMCs. So my goal over the next hour is for you to walk away with the following: an understanding of why we started EVED, what need were we trying to fill, how and why meeting and incentive companies are using EVED and why they've asked you to join, and how you can maximize your sales opportunities with EVED. And I'm also going to share with you our vision as a company for serving the international DMC community, both in the short and long term. So a couple of logistics. We're going to keep everybody's phones muted so that we can make sure to be able to hear the entire webinar. We are recording this webinar so that you can have a copy of it afterwards and share it. You can follow the conversation on Twitter and mention EVED Marketplace and Talia, EVED CEO, and we'll be tweeting live during the panel. I also want to let you know that we will be having a Q&A session at the end. I encourage you as I go to submit your questions. The way that you do that is going to your top panel where you'll see a chat box, and you can chat to Implementations Operations 2, which has a host next to it, and send us your questions. You can send them throughout the session. Sometimes a question may come in and I may stop and answer it throughout the presentation. Otherwise, we will have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of your questions. So let's get started. I think the first question that should be kind of the obvious one is, why did we start EVED? I personally had a successful DMC. Why would I want to launch technology to service the event industry? It's a huge risk, millions of dollars in financial commitment, and it's been years of persistent hard work to even get it launched. I really risked everything for my passion for live events and my commitment to bringing technology to this industry. So why? Over my time as part of this industry, and especially while I was building my own DMC and experiencing what it's like to be a business owner and a DMC owner, I saw seeing a shift, and of course I've continued to see that shift on corporate procurement. Like they've had in all other spend categories for corporate, I strongly believe that the only way that live events continue to grow as an industry is to find a way to create efficiencies in the back office. Our greatest cost is our labor. That's what we sell. We're a service business, and the only way that we're going to be able to increase our margin over time or be able to meet the expectations of pricing from the corporate procurement is to figure out a way to be able to gain efficiencies from tools that allow people to do their jobs better, faster, and cheaper. So when I launched my DMC, I tried to figure out how was the best way I could run my company, how was the best way I could grow my company, and I figured out that technology to automate the back office so that the time my people spent were with the clients, talking to the clients, engaging the clients instead of back office paperwork, and building successful third-party relationships were the two biggest success points for me that allowed us to go from 250,000 to 9 million in such a short time. I want to share with you some of the things that I've done to help grow your company. So what is EVED? EVED is an internet platform that links all the members of the event supply chain to interact and transact. If you think about what do buyers need, what are these meeting incentive needs, what do companies need? They need procurement tools to manage their suppliers. Buyers need to know who their suppliers are, what services they can provide, manage the compliance and risk around these suppliers, and have a way to share that information with potentially hundreds of other buyers across their company. If the buyers don't know who the suppliers are they're supposed to work with, then they're not able to aggregate their buying power. This is not a new concept in corporate America. Ariba, SAP, Oracle, and so many other technology providers have been providing solutions to corporations for over 15 years, but it's been in the other spend categories, like office supplies and manufacturing. These other technologies also provide visibility for companies into data, into their spend data, so they can help them make better buying decisions. So the last few years, the event spend category, all of the money that these corporations are spending on meetings and events, has really finally made its way up to the CFO's desk. You talk to corporations and more you're finding initiatives to be able to figure out, get visibility and understand their event spend. And for anyone who's been in the event industry, the last thing we want to do is be treated by procurement like office supplies products and think it's just all about price, when the most important thing is it's all about experience and the value that we can provide. So I think it's crucial that there be a procurement solution that exists for corporations and meeting and incentive companies that caters specifically to the event industry. That is our mission on the buyer side with EVED. We're providing this to the meeting and incentive companies so that they can service their corporate clients. But we're different because we're not an enterprise solution. We don't only look at the buyer side and say, what do they need? What are the tools that they need to be successful? We see both our buyers and our sellers, the DMCs, as our clients. And we want to make sure that DMCs have equal value on EVED. So we've created two products for our sellers, for our DMCs. The first is a marketing solution, and the second is an operating system that is a complete source-to-pay solution. These are the two things that I will be talking about today. As I mentioned, we provide the procurement tools to the meeting and incentive market. And in order for them to service their corporate customers, I'm going to move into our demo environment, and I want to really just give a little bit of a background on what exactly the meeting and incentives see when they're in EVED, how they view their DMCs, how they're using it, just to give a little visibility and understanding the product and why they're probably asking you to be on it. So I've logged into EVED under a meeting and incentive company. And as a typical buyer, the challenge that the meeting incentive companies had is that they had a list of all their preferred DMCs, but it was managed on an Excel with like just a name and a contact that would always change. They'd have a list of tariffs maybe someplace else. Other companies had Outlook contacts, but there was really no real information about their DMCs. You would rely on emails that would come throughout the year. Very, very manual process of managing insurance and contract requirements. So if we look at EVED from a meeting and incentive perspective, what we've tried to do is give them a clear visibility into who the suppliers are and all of the management that they need around it. So starting with the buyers. So when the buyers are on EVED, and I'm sure if anyone listened to our panel, they talked about the fact that they use EVED to find out all the information about their DMCs, is that they can go in and set specific categories that they tag their DMCs. So they might say you're in a certain destination that they're searching for, a particular category, any way that they want to customize it. And then they can go through and look at all of the preferred DMCs that they have. And then they're going to go in and view a profile. So your profile is the most important piece of marketing that you have in front of all of the buyers. And as you saw my slide before, from AMIA to meetings and incentives to BCD to ITA group to merits, all of those buyers are looking to EVED and to your profile to find out everything about your company. So this gives them so much more visibility than they ever had before in just a line item in an Excel document that said, here's the company and here's who you contact. So you can see you have a little bit of information about your company. This is a custom banner that you can change, the products that you're offering. They're looking for the specific representative that's their representative within your company that you can do. If you've got a second office in the United States and one in the international markets, you can list both offices. Note here that we mark as to when the profile was updated last. One of the feedbacks that we've gotten from our meeting and incentive companies is they love the companies that update their profiles the most. They're notified when those profiles are updated, so that's really important. You can see the number of views, so they see how active your profile is, how many people in the EVED community of their other colleagues are looking at your profile. We'll talk a little bit later about the ways that DMCs have been smart about bringing that number up, because there's some marketing tools that you can use. They'll look for the destinations that you service. They'll be particular around the ratings, where they can see their personal rating if they've worked with you, their aggregate company rating, as well as the aggregate of the public ratings. All of your information from your main company contacts that you can list to your website, your social media. You can put videos and audio links. This is so crucial where they say that, they want to find out more about your destination and what you've done. You can change this at any time and be able to give them the latest, venues and the latest tours and the latest things that are going on, and they're looking to those. You also have photos that you can put up, and you can change at any time. If you've got any certifications, they're always looking for that, and they can find you by certification. Sometimes they need to work with a particular DMC that has a particular certification. Your awards and affiliations, if you're part of a network, then you want to put those there as well. They can see that you're preferred. They want to know that you're sufficient insurance, and there is a copy for them then of the certificate. I know people have kind of said, oh, this insurance, but this is huge for the buyers to have the copy of the insurance right on hand, so they don't have to spend hours going to trace that down from their industry relations team, and they don't want to sit and understand if it's correct or if it's not correct, and EVED really makes that for them so that they know what's sufficient. They could have additional notes from internally from their company about you, any tax forms. They have a copy of the contract at their fingertips that they never had before. And of course, the most important thing for them to be able to do is send you an RFP from this profile, but they also can look in the filing cabinet. So for example, there are companies like Merits that have you load your tariff, but other companies use other things like a contact list. So what they see is documents that have been loaded about you by their industry relations team, but then they see all the documents that you've loaded. So if you think about in the past, if there was a company that required tariff, you could send it in once a year. And hopefully there are a lot of things that are new and could change and be different and creative that happen over the course of the year. You don't have to wait for the following year to submit it. You can go and update all that information all in real time. So we really look at it, and the buyers look at it as for the first time, instead of just a name, they got an entire marketing information about their DMCs in their destination. And if the DMCs are using this properly, it's a huge opportunity to have direct contact at the time that the buyers are looking in your destination or looking at you to find out the latest information in a nice format. So this is big, and it's amazing how some of the DMCs have still not gone in and updated their profiles. And if you talk to the buyers, it's definitely impactful to those that have and those that haven't when they're looking to source and send their RFPs. So this is where they go and they select the suppliers, the DMCs that they're going to work with, and they send you an RFP right from EVED, which is very convenient for them because they can store then all of their RFPs in one place. They like to share that information sitting with the proposals in their Outlook email boxes. Not having the ability to share that across their company is challenging and inefficient. What we like to say is having the right information at the right time as opposed to having to be copied on everything. So having a centralized place where they can go in, so if they talk to Janet down the street and say, oh, did you get a great proposal from this great DMC, but you know what, our client decided not to go ahead with the program, but it's such a great proposal. Go look it up, right? And you can have the whole entire company, and they can search and find all of those great proposals that they wanted to share that were before on their desktop. So all of that is stored for them, and the entire history is there. So that's the primary, from the buyer perspective, it's taking all of those tools and putting it right in front of them, which makes it so much easier for them to do business. And of course, we continue to look at new enhancements and being able to provide even better information for them through that RFP process. And what I'll show you also is at the same point, you as a DMC can see copies of all the proposals and the RFPs that they've sent you stored in one central location. But the next thing that I want to show you also is understanding just the management tools. So when you think about the industry relations team, where if they had a preferred DMC network, it was 3-4 people that it took to manually really properly manage the compliance, the insurance, the contracts, keeping their database up to date, and it just couldn't afford it anymore. Across the board, 2 years ago, there were cuts to that department. And for those companies that didn't even have the staff to begin with, they didn't run a really great preferred DMC program and didn't have a great way to communicate to their buyers who are preferred DMCs. And it's important that for the DMCs that have the preferred relationships, that there is a great platform to communicate those preferred DMCs, because preferred DMCs invest quite a bit in that relationship. And they want to make sure that they're the forefront in front of a buyer when they're looking for that destination. So a couple of our clients first actually created a great method in order to be able to put in front of their buyers who the DMCs were, because they didn't have a resource to be able to dedicate one person to managing that. They had multiple other roles that they had to play. And EVED now provided them with efficiency tools so that they can actually have a really great preferred supplier program and manage it properly. And what I'm giving you is a view into some of those into some of that back end of the manager, the supplier manager. So they have a list of all of their DMCs. They have a very quick list of seeing, if you're preferred or approved or pending. They have different statuses. If they sent you an invitation, if you've accepted it, if your insurance remains sufficient, and if your terms and conditions have been accepted. In the past, they were paging through lots of papers to be able to figure this out. And then they can go in, they could do a mass email to all of their DMCs and track that. They can go in and view information about that. And again, this is from the industry relations lead, not all the buyers, who can control that. So they can easily go and say, okay, they went from preferred to now maybe they're approved, or however they want to define that. They can add the company notes for all of their meeting planners. They can assign insurance requirements. They see all the certificates. They can replace the terms and conditions document. This is where they can go and associate any of the filters that they've created, and so they can say these are the destinations that this DMC is approved for, so that it's easy for their buyers to know where they're approved and not approved. They're able to easily see the insurance coverage, which before was just documents and difficult, where you can say, here's what we required, here's what the vendor has, the status. And while it could be challenging, I know sometimes, to be able to get that up there, it's just significant efficiencies for everybody in understanding if the insurance is right. And this is a huge requirement from corporations now that the meeting and incentive companies have to follow. So we've cut probably 80 to 90% of the time out of that, and instead of spending the time having to figure out if what the document was sent is actually sufficient, they now are spending their time making sure they get their documents from their suppliers. So there's a big shift because of the visibility. They have history in being able to see, when did the supplier come in, when did the insurance. All of this information is really valuable when you're trying to run a preferred supplier program. And of course, they've got their file cabinet with all those additional documents. This technology made it really possible for a lot of these companies to run their program efficiently. And just to give you another little dab, they can create their surveys, easy for them to set their insurance requirements, easy for them to be able to create their filters. So taking us back, to our main page, all of that information that's done by the lead industry relations then populates easy for their buyers to be able to quickly find and send their RFPs and understand a lot about the DMCs in their program. So I am now going to take a shift And I'm going to walk you through on your side, the counterpart of that is the marketing piece of it. So here's, kind of how they use it. But what's the marketing piece that you get out of that? And I think I've really touched on it quite a bit in terms of being able to build this profile. When you go into your marketing, you've got your profile. You can go through and edit any of these different photos. And again, the key is, I think, is getting in there and engaging by changing these things often. And this is really not a replacement of those phone calls, not a replacement of the personal engagement, but a replacement of those emails that get sent, that get deleted, and that are not going to be there when that buyer then wants to look at you and your destination. This is what will be there when they're ready to go look at it. So it's really, really important. The other thing I think I mentioned was around how do you get more views? Well, a lot of our clients have created and used our survey tool, and you can add your questions and you can create your own custom client survey, and you can actually send your survey out to your clients and they can rate you. So that could really build your ratings, which is really important on EVED. And then, of course, being able to share your profile. So if you've built this great profile, a lot of DMCs are EVED are grabbing these little icons that you can and putting at the bottom of their email, and that's a link to that beautiful profile. You can grab this link. We heard on our panel from our meeting and incentive companies to please not put 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 pages about your company, but integrate that into your profile and put a link to your profile on your proposal. And these are the places where you're able to do that. So a lot of number of tools that you can use, especially as an international DMC where you don't get to see those clients as often, you really do have the opportunity to be in front of them at the right time. So getting back into our slide for a second, I want to talk just a little bit about, besides being able to bring this platform so that meeting and incentive companies can actually run a qualified preferred program with the new resource limitations that they have. We've also done some other things, and I think that, we'll continue to do that. I think we're a company that really, for the first time, brought together all these different meeting and incentive companies and had them talking to each other about the way that they've managed their DMCs and potentially creating things that make it easier and not having so much onus on their DMCs. So, for example, we brought them all together and said, streamline what you want from your international DMCs in terms of insurance. It doesn't make any sense that you have 5 different companies asking for different things. And we did bring them all together, and they did agree on a method, and some of them have rolled that out, and some of them will roll it out. And it's not perfect yet. But our goal is to really get them talking about ways that they can make it easier to be able to communicate. We also were able to bring them together to talk about what their proposal expectations were, and that was on a webinar. We've talked about it in the past, and we finally got to do a webinar and share that, and we're happy to share that panel as well. Lastly, when we built these profiles, and we've just redone them this year, as well as the other marketing information, we went to all these meeting and incentive companies and we said to them, what is it that the information that you want from your DMCs, and what format do you want them? How is it going to make it easier for you and be valuable for your DMCs? And the profiles that I just shared with you are really a result of the feedback that we got as to what they want to see and how they want to see it and how it would be engaging to them. And we know that there are a lot of other things that will come in the future that will hopefully be able to help on both sides by being able to bring everybody together. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that we haven't shared with the international market, which the domestic market has seen, and definitely where there's probably a lot of confusion around what is EVED from a transaction perspective and how can it help me. And in fact, one of the international leaders I spoke to a couple weeks ago, as part of our initiative to really just understand and figure out kind of what was really going on in the perception of the international market, he said to me, where have you been hiding this? And what this is an operating system for DMCs to be able to manage their companies. Really being able to save time on the back office so you can spend your time communicating with your clients, automating purchase orders to suppliers, really putting tools to be able to protect margins, having visibility to understanding the costs versus what you're charging, really an ability to win more business. And I'm going to do a brief overview of what we call EVED E360. As you watch it, you will see that it is definitely geared currently towards the U.S. market, but one of our initiatives is that we are going to be getting this out to the international market for next year, and we've already got a couple of international DMCs who are working with us on the tweaks that need to be made in order to make it really work nicely, but there's few, and we're excited to be able to share with you kind of what we're doing and what our vision is. So E360 is really truly a full operating system. We call it from source to pay, meaning from sourcing your suppliers to proposing your clients to the contract with your clients and the change orders that go back and forth, to requesting your payments, to reconciling those payments, to all of your reporting, to all your communication with your suppliers, and all of your payment. And I'm going to just walk you through at a very high level what that looks like, and happy to be able to work with anyone individually who'd like to find out more about it. So the first thing you'll see is a dashboard about a calendar. And the way that we look at this is really around how does a program evolve. It starts as a proposal, it goes to a contract, it goes to a point where the program ends and it needs to be closed. You've got to make sure that all of your costs and your pricing is in there, where the program needs to be closed out, and if it's waiting payment, or it's completely closed and locked and done. And these little color-coded icons, which actually are links to your entire digital program file, act as a way to tell you kind of what's going on. It's telling, from the sales perspective, they're going to be looking for things that are still proposed, and you can flip between months and see what are all the proposals that are still out there that need to be changed. The operations people are going to look and see, well, what's my week ahead, and they can look and see everything that's pink and understand sort of what's the week ahead, and they're always using these links to be able to get to their program files from an operations standpoint. And then the finance people are looking to see, what's still red? What have we not received payment on? And when you look back into your months prior, you want to make sure that there's nothing red and everything is purple, which means it's closed, paid in full. So as opposed to, and we've got all the reports that you can look at, but it's a great dashboard that the team uses really efficiently across all of their different departments. Then we've also got a quick snapshot of, from a financial perspective, which you do have a full sales view that I'll share as well. But you can look and see, real quickly, what are the total sales for the quarter, for the month, what's still in proposal. And then, you can look back and say, well, what was December 2011? What's going to be January? Where are we at now for January, 2013? And this is demo data. So, but really, it's just a great tool, and this is something I had in my DMC that we used all the time. And all this information populates in real time, and because all of your proposals and all of your contracts are coming out of EVED, so therefore, all of this information is all there. So one thing changes, and all of this gets updated automatically. So a great tool, to get a quick glance at what's going on with your company. I also just want to point out that, kind of going back to our prior discussion, that we do now have the manager clients, which is your ability to be able to accept your accept your invitations and your insurance requirements from your meeting and incentive companies right off of the top. So let's continue to look at, how does E360 work? So it really starts, as I mentioned, in the proposal stage. And you've got now a central location where you're able to have all of your programs all in one place. And you're really looking at it by the status. So is it closed? Is it open? Who did it? So you can quickly, easily find all of the different proposals that are out there. Now you see it in US dollars. Clearly you'll be able to pick the currency that works for you, as well as a couple other things in terms of the wording possibly that we use that will be different based on the market that you service. So I'm going to open one up that already exists, a proposal that I'm pending because I'm working on it, just to kind of give you a brief overview of what it looks like. So it starts with your the company information, your client information. Once you've worked with that client once, whether their email or their name are in there, it'll pre-populate everything. And you'll notice on EVED that you'll only ever enter data one time. You don't ever have to enter data more than once, because that's when you have an issue of data not reconciling, and you have to spend back office time reconciling that information. So in each place on EVED, you'll see where it's only one time. You can then go in and be able to put information about your program. If some of this stuff you may not know what venue it's at, you may be proposing venues, but there's different information that's there, and you can put it in as you go. You also have the ability to put your rest of your team on. So when you're first doing a proposal, you probably don't have an operations manager, on-site coordinator, and these are names that could be customized based on each company. But as you go through the process of the program, you can then go through and assign everyone else on your team and decide, do they need to have their name displayed on the purchase orders, on the invoice to the client, do they need email notifications, and these kind of come on and off. And this is the other piece that you'll notice about EVED is that everything's in one place, and everyone just collaborates. Kind of like, I give the example with Facebook is before we had pictures and you'd have to go and print them and you'd mail them to all your friends. And then once we had digital, you were able to take all your pictures and upload them, but then you were emailing them, separate emails to every single one of your friends, and everyone had all of their photos in that email box, and then they'd write you an email and comment back to it, and you'd have all these different emails going back and forth. And then when you were able to post your pictures on Facebook and invite the friends that you wanted to see, and then they posted it all in real time, you got away from all the back and forth, and again, all the information was in the right place at the right time when you needed it. And it's a very good example and a good parallel to sort of what goes on today with a lot of programs where you're sending proposals back and forth, Excel sheets back and forth between your team as well as your client. And EVED really provides this centralized place where everything goes and everything gets updated in real time, and you'll see that throughout. You've also got the ability to be able to go in and change any of your taxes. So if you've got VAT, we could particularly put in, and I'm just going to give an example of one, and you'll see how that comes out. Just going to give one example. Now you could set these as a default so that it's always there every single time, or as a custom proposal because I'm doing something somewhere else. It's not in my defaults, but then I've got the flexibility to be able to change it based on the salesperson. And then I'm going to get into the guts of really building the proposal. And one of the key differences that you'll notice is that we have an aggregate of all of your supplier information. You could put all of your, from your suppliers, you could load all of your pricing, you could load all of your suppliers, you could put all of your information, and this is your own unique view. Only you can see it, and the users that you put on for your company. Everyone is unique to their own instance, and you could quickly go in and find the products that you're looking for. So some people have said, oh, I've got a system and it's codes, but this is a lot more than codes. This has the pictures, it's got descriptions. You can go through and narrow it down. You can do keywords. Let's say you're looking for a certain activity, or you're looking by a certain category, and it'll narrow down from your thousands and thousands of products to narrowing it down to what you're looking for. And it's really, really simple, and you just have to go in and hit the quantity and hit add it to your proposal, and it adds. And as you can see, you've already put in your cost, you've got your retail, you already see your margin, so it makes it real easy for those who create the proposal to be able to go in and add it. And I've already created something here, so I can walk you through it. The way we look at it, and I know the wording is maybe different for each company, is that you have an overall program, and then you've got activities, event activities that are underneath it. So this is the one-week proposal that starts with the transportation to and from the airport. I could put information about that particular activity or event, like an overview, and then the detail around it. And the reason a lot of that detail is there as well is because all of this feeds off one another. So for example, this will go onto the purchase orders that go to the suppliers, as well as your start times and end times. I can hide these details as I'm kind of working on it, and I can also just hide this entire activity while I'm working on other ones. The next is, it's all about some activities that I'm going to do. I've got some staffers, some greeters. When I'm first putting it in as a proposal, when I'm first building it, or once even I'm awarded the program, it really is the same view because we're doing all of the costing as well as all of the proposal and contract all at the same time. So if I go in and and there's now a change from 10 to 12, whether I'm still in my proposal phase or I've already gone to contract, these change orders happen all the time. All I've got to do is make that quick change and adjust everything. You know, and I might even need to be able to have a bigger change, like, you know, the supplier didn't do such a great job, and well, my unit cost is $0 right now, but you know, maybe it was $30 and now it's down to $20. Everything automatically calculates for me. I've decided to give my client a discount, so automatically my discount will appear. I've got that VAT that I need to add, so my VAT will be added. You know, any of these things that need to change, it's doing all of your costing and all your pricing side by side. You even have the option to be able to say, hey, this is just an additional option. I'm going to propose 3 options. I don't want them all in the total, and I can select something as an option. So a lot of different ways that makes it really easy to be able to input all this information. And most of all is being able, as you can see, as I make all my changes, I've got all of my costing automatically done for me. So if I pull up my program spend summary, it's going to tell me all of my suppliers, all of my costs automatically, what my pricing and what my margins are. I can look at my costing by each particular activity, or I can look at it overall. But there's no additional Excel sheets that I'm doing. It's all there, and it's all going to feed to all of my reports. So what I think everyone kind of has to get their head around is that instead of having 6 or 7 different steps and where you're repeating the data multiple times, only your data gets entered one time. And you have a number of different ways you can package per person, you can add fees, so there's a number of different things that you can do with it. You know, if you want to change your order of how you want something to appear, you could just simply drag and drop. And as you can see, it just changed it, and now my cocktail hours first, and my Sunday activities are second. So real easy to be able to manage the format of the proposal. Now, this is the input side. A lot of this is done from, you know, being able to load some things in your database, but you also know that, hey, you might not have everything in there, and you know what, you may also not want to start. You want to start before you have thousands and thousands of products loaded. So as the proposal creator, you could always go and add your own item, add your pictures, add your video links, add your photos, and then add your pricing detail. So you can add an item as you go. You can edit as you go. So a lot of flexibility to be able to have some of that automation that is there, but also allowing the proposal writer to be creative and unique, and because that's also important. And we allow you to be able to update that. So while you might have had some default descriptions and things, now you've got the opportunity to go in and change those descriptions, customize them as to the reason why you picked this for this particular client. The video links are great. You could go in and change your photos. So really, this is your chance to kind of have most of your information in there, but being able to go through and go ahead and change any of the things that you want to change to make it unique and creative and custom to that client. You then have the ability to be able to go in, and also it serves, as I said, as the pay side of it and the invoice side of it, and it all balances out. So I can go in and request all of my payments. I could put the due dates in there, so it'll track it for me on my receivables report, as well as from reminders for my clients. I can put the amounts that I'm looking for, and of course, if I change anything throughout that process, I'm able to go in and change, you know, add the dollar amount. It's telling me, hey, you've added additional sale for $70, but you haven't invoiced for it. And so I know that. If I receive a payment from my client, I can go in and post that payment. You know, if I've gotten a wire transfer, I can put it in for the date on that. I'm just going to put some test data in. If I go ahead and post that payment right in Eved, it'll send a receipt to my client, letting me know that, letting them know that that their payment was received. It updates it in real time. It updates it on the receivable reports, on the sales reports, and everything else. And then, you know, as your final step is your ability to go in and you can send it to your client. You can send all your purchase orders are automatically created, and you have the choice to send them to your suppliers, as well as a number of different outputs that you can control that if you want to look at what you want to control what your client sees. So what does that proposal look like? And, you know, this is one version of the proposal. And we call it the interactive view. And it's the ability for the client, and based on a lot of feedback that we've gotten from the meeting incentive companies, is having the things I need where I need them in one place. So the one thing you'll notice is files. You have a file cabinet where you can load. So you might have your menu, you might have your manifest. Instead of adding those as additional documents, and especially throughout the process, you can load them and the client has them in one place. This is where we heard from our panelists, don't give me pages of your company. There's a link to your profile that's there. You give a little bit of an overview about the program, why you picked it, what you did. And then the client can look, they can go in and they can look at it as a high level and see all the different things. Then they can open one event at a time. They get to have an overview of that activity. And then they've got really an interactive experience that they can go through and be able to, go in and look at the various pictures that they want about, what you're pitching to them by going through it, which is really neat. There's a number of things where they can have different video links. So this is a bicycling adventure, so it's a little bit of the content. You've got the photos, and then you've got your link, and which is a video link. And one thing we also heard was video is the new and greatest way to be able to create the experience for your clients. And then your clients can go in and accept this proposal. They've got their pricing detailed as well. And the other thing they can look at is you could send them a PDF. So you may have those clients that don't want you to, don't want to be interactive. They like when you send them just their PDF, which is totally understandable. And you can automatically just hit View PDF, and it creates it in a PDF for you. So this is one of the PDF layouts. Some of the feedback we got is, hey, can we customize what ours looks like, which you can, but you can see I didn't have to spend any time where I put the pictures, how I wrote it. It all automatically just creates it for me with all of my pricing, which is a huge efficiency from a time perspective. And I just got a couple minutes left where I just want to show you how supplier purchase orders are created. You've got a list of all of your purchase orders to all of your suppliers. As you can see, they were all automatically created. I can go in and pull one up. Some suppliers really want to engage on Evid, and you can automatically send it to them and they can dialogue with you. Others, they just really want you to email it to them. But as you can see, it's got all that information that's on it. There's where that operations and on-site coordinator is, where I was showing you from the beginning, where you can list it on your purchase order. It's got the venue information, so the supplier knows where to go, and of course what you're buying from them. Now this is only information that goes between you and your supplier. Obviously the client only sees the sales information, but it's a great way to be able to automatically create all that information, and as you change things, automatically those purchase orders are updated. So they're always in sync. And lastly, I just want to show you just a couple of the reports that you can see. So this is a purchase order report. So I can go in and at any time know exactly, for any time period, what I owe or what business I've done with my suppliers. So here's the amount. If I've paid them, I can log that I paid them. It shows me my balance. So I've got all this information all in one place. I've also got my sales report. So again, this is all feeding off of that input. You don't have to do anything else than what I showed you, where it gives you the information about the program. There's always a link to that program file. You've got your sales totals. You've got the payments you've received. Now that's from when I posted that payment. Any taxes you may owe, your supplier costs, and your margin, so that you could really have a really great visibility and picture into what's going on with your company. And all of this can be integrated into your financial software. There's a number of other reports, that we've got available that are in our reporting tab that we just, we won't have time to go into detail today, but I'll just, show you some of them in which you can see, just category detail, what's selling, what's not. I do want to thank everybody very much for joining us. We've done previously, the first two in our educational series were how DMCs can win M&I programs. We had some great panelists from all the meeting and incentive companies on, and they told us and shared quite a bit. So we've got that recording. Then we came back and talked about how to create winning proposals and a lot of great tips. We've gotten some great feedback from that as well. And then coming in 2013, we're going to talk about full service destination partnerships, as well as other education webinars. And if you are interested in finding out more about the webinars that are coming up, please email us at marketing@eved.com. Again, I want to thank everybody for their support and for taking the time to listen, and really excited to be able to engage with everybody. My personal email is Talia, T-A-L-I-A, @eved.com. Would love to hear from you, would love to hear feedback, and again, passionate and excited to really be able to bring value and to help DMCs across both domestic as well as to the international market. Thank you so much for joining, and we will be sending a recording out